to check your names because it defaults to Sherry. Doug, you changed yours. Good job.
Thanks, Denny.
What about that game last night? I went to bed. Couldn't stand it.
Oh yeah? No. Which one? The Lightning?
The
Oh,
Buccaneers.
Buccaneers. Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I didn't get a chance to watch it, my friend.
Oh, you're not,
I'm a hockey guy. So
yeah, okay,
I'm in my favorite season right now.
all right, let me go. It's 1 o'clock, top of the hour, guys. Thanks for coming into Mastery. I'm letting all these AI folks in, and welcome everybody. Denny Grimes coming to you from Southwest Florida. It is time for Mastery Roleplay. It is October 4th, and today I'm going to share something I'm working on right now, and then of course we're going to dig deeper into some conversations. And I want to run some things by you that I'm putting in the first draft of my book. I appreciate any feedback you to give me. I spent 30 minutes talking to Monica Reynolds today, somebody who's been in real estate for 45 years, and running some ideas by her and just getting input. So we'll talk about a few things. If you have not been on my YouTube channel and you want to basically maybe go back and look at some of the old recordings, get some ideas, it is basically the Denny Grimes Mastery of Real Estate. And if you'd subscribe, my goal is to get to 1,000 here by the end of October. Secondly, if you know anyone who's a great video editor, I'd like to be able to chunk these up and make them into little vignettes. You can always email me at coachdennygrimes@gmail.com. So, and if many of you guys are on our daily call, John McLeod and I and Matt and a few others we host a call every day. It's totally free. It's 8:30 to 9 Central Time or 9:30 to 10 Eastern Time. It's called Recon. There's a QR code, or just go to reconroleplay.com. Here's what I want to start with you guys, the thought of the day, and let's have some discussions about this. And that's setting buyer expectation. Setting buyers' expectation. So when I was meeting with a co-author yesterday, and we have these meetings scheduled, I'm so proud I put this thing off for so many years, and we've probably got half of the rough manuscript done already. I noticed there was a gap. We always talk about expectations. The sellers, there's 3 outcomes when you work with a seller, and then when you work with a seller, you don't set prices, you set expectations. And Monica, who's helping me write the book, said to me, well, you don't have a lot over here on the buyer side. And I started scratching my head. You know what? You're right. So let's talk a little bit about buyers, and we can handle buyer objections. And let's talk about some things I think physics about buyers. And I'm going to find somebody here who would like to be my co-host as people come in, somebody who understands how to do that. I see Jeff's here. Mark's here. Anybody else would like to help me so I don't have to keep watching this thing? So, Doug, you know how to do that? You know how to let people.
Not sure, Denny. Maybe walk me through it.
Well, yeah.
I can help you, Denny.
You're Lauren, maybe.
All right, DLG, I got you. There you go. If you let people in, that'd be great. All right, so here's my thought. Setting buyer expectations. I'm going to throw it to you just for a second. So when we go on a listing presentation, how many of you guys have heard me talk about we don't set prices, we set expectations? Let me see. We don't put our fingerprints on the price. All right. Now, is that the way you roll, or just you hear it, but that doesn't feel comfortable? That's not your style. Hey, no judgment. Any feedback, if that was not the way you used to do it, and now you're doing it that way, how does it feel to you?
Denny, do we want other people to chime in before I say something?
Yeah, well, yeah, unless you want to say something to help people chime in, that'd be good.
Yeah. So I have always had a market recommended value, but I detach from it because my disclaimer has always been, would you like to know what the market's saying about the potential value for our home? Okay, and then I say, well, let me give you a disclaimer first. This is not my price. Realtors are interpreters. We interpret what the market is telling us. So if you hear an agent say, my price, run, because they're probably lying to you. And that's literally my disclaimer in my listing appointment. And so I said, this, based off of what we've gone over, this is what the market is telling me. Telling us, can you see how I would interpret it that way? And then we have a conversation about their expectations. And I've expanded on that because of you. You've taught me to be more, I've always been detached, but be completely detached. Hey, what were you hoping for? And actually I set that first. Now that's what was uncomfortable to me, was putting that first and then going into how I've always done it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Matt. Thank you for the compliment too, that you actually learned something from me. Who else is doing it, and is it working for you?
So I like to, as much as possible, as much as I can pre-qualify and maybe even get my eyes on the property ahead of time. I try to come up with some type of CMA for them, and I present to them the similar solds in the area, and then I ask them where they want to fall. If it's something where I feel like it's outside of maybe what the market value is, then I'll go back and suggest a range, and then I'll see if they want to fall within that range. But I keep my hands off of the price as much as possible, pretty much because I've been on your calls and kind of been taking that advice. Sometimes when sellers have a pushback, I do find that it gets trickier with me consistently trying to avoid giving them a price, and then I'll go back to the price range, and then of course, ultimately let them decide, and then go into the 3 outcomes should they agree that they're going to move forward with me. So that's kind of how I do it.
So I'm going to, because I've talked more about sellers and buyers, I'm going to transition into a buyer conversation here in a second. However, I'm going to go in, and I don't do the role play as much as you guys do. So Lauren, why don't you be one of those pesky little sellers that seem to push back?
Okay.
There's one thing there. Matt just said something, and I'm going to underline it. And it's real important. I'm going to demonstrate it here in a second. So we've gone over everything. Now we're in a role play. I'm at the table. Lauren is a potential seller. We've gone over everything. I have gone through, by the way, see if I can find the right slide here. Yeah. This is what you're going to take notes today. This is what you want to take notes on. There's 3 things, just 3 things. I like simple, so I like 3. I have 3 kids, actually. I never thought about that. So 3 things is what we know what's happened in the past. We should. That's an easy lookup. We know what basically is active, and we should know the trends. Anything else is a guess. So before you can, probably in a listing presentation, before you ask, are you ready to move forward? Realistically, you probably would have had a pricing conversation. True. So, right. So I'm just going to assume that I've gone through the pricing conversation and gone through what is sold, what is active, and the market trends.
Mm-hmm.
Does this make sense to you? Then I'm going to ask this closing question based on this information that I've given you. Where would you like to position your home? Now, notice I've trained myself never to say pricing.
Mm-hmm.
So I walk into Best Buy and I see a TV I like. I said, what's your position on that? No, I don't really do that. But I'm talking to a seller, I don't say pricing, I say position. All right, Lauren, where would you like to position your home based on what we've looked at?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I've talked to a few agents. They've given me some numbers. So what do you think this home will sell for?
Well, okay, so first of all, let's come up with some numbers here. So what's realistic? You're in Jersey, so what would be your range there? 500?
Yeah, a little higher than that. We can do 500. That's nice and even. But usually ours is in 750 area, around there.
As you can see here, all of the past sales have been basically around 525 or less. There's some actives that are in the 600 range and upper 5s. So that's what the X-ray is showing us now. Based on that, where did you want to position? Now notice that's my second ask. Based on that, and I'm pointing to what has happened. And that's kind of what Matt was saying. Well, I forget exactly how he said it, but this is what the market is showing us. That's what the market is showing us. Do you see yourself positioning somewhere in that range? That's my question.
I mean, do I see myself somewhere in that range? I mean, I guess I would like to get more for it, but where do you think, what number do you think we should start with to get the most amount of eyes on this property?
Well, okay, so do you want the most number of eyes on it, or are you looking to maximize your net?
Well, I want to maximize my net. I imagine creating a frenzy around the property would help in increasing that bottom line.
So I'm going to stop for just a second. What is the difference between when she wants eyes on the property? Is there a difference between eyes on a property and what she's going to sell it for? And if there is, somebody please explain that to me, because there is a difference.
Well, I mean, I think the eyes on the property,
Oh, sorry. Wouldn't it just be more showings versus what actually sells and how many offers you get?
Well, eventually, yeah. But when she said, I want to get the most eyes on it. So let's say it's in the 500 range. What happens if you list it for $100? Would you get more eyes on it?
Yeah.
So I'm changing the base. I'm going to make sure, because she wants eyeballs on it. Then, all right. So then she would have to be very aggressive from a pricing standpoint. When there is a discussion that's going forward on this, here I always pull out just a plain piece of paper, which is predominantly my listing presentation when it comes to pricing. Can you see the graph? Can you see the screen behind me, you guys?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so this is an axiom that I believe it's in my book, and I believe this is one of the laws of physics of real estate I think you want to internalize. That is that top market value, write this down, the top market value is not known until you expose it.
Right.
So, Matt, how would you say that maybe differently if you agree with that, so people can get this point?
Oh gosh, Denny's gonna hate this. I've always operated from the foundation of it's not possible to underprice a property, because if a property is perceived as a good value, it's going to create an auction type atmosphere. You're going to have 15 realtors through the first weekend, and they're all going to be writing offers. And there's two good things to that. Number one, you get to pick the buyer. Number two, it sells for well above list price, let alone appraised value. Okay,
nothing wrong with that. That doesn't counteract what I said. I said top market not known until you expose.
Right. So sorry, I probably went off on a tangent there. I agree. We don't, and I always joke with people and say, hey, a broken clock is right twice a day. Eventually you'll get whatever you want. It's just a question of when. So I agree 100% with Denny is, hey, if we want that price, who knows, we might be able to get it, or it may take a long time. But yeah, you don't know. There's no way to know.
I think that basically this is a very strong underlying principle that you got to really internalize, because, like, for example, because it's the market is kind of I use the example a lot of the $100 bill, and for the agents out there that basically want to get multiple offers, and they say if you want multiple offers, then you price your $100 bill what, below 100. Now, will that be bid up? Yes, in a rational market, it will be bid up, probably to $100. So if you go over $100, can you sell a $100 bill over $100?
You can to somebody. I mean, you can. It's just a question of how long you have to wait for that person.
Yeah, well, there's coin collectors that know how to get more. I forget what they call those guys, but the people that collect coins can get more for than face value. But the bottom line is this: my discussion is going to be with her. Look, Lauren, we've got a very simple decision to make when it comes to positioning your home. If top market value is not known to expose it, now you guys that have been in real estate for the last 4 years. What happened when you put a house on the market from a COVID and during the COVID years? I mean, you look at your CMA, which I don't like those words. and it generally sold for more, and sometimes much more. And not many people have been on the call as long as I have. I've seen the market the other way. So the decision we have to make, Lauren, is this. If we don't know where the top market value is, we have just two choices. And again, I've got all the past sales there, and I've got the current actives. We can go above where the fish have been biting, point A. And if we're wrong, we can come down. That's all I say. I know there's potential risk, etc. I'm not going into that right now. Or we can get aggressive, price it below, and maybe get multiple offers, maybe sell it faster, or you might leave money on the table. Which point do you want to begin in?
Well, above. I want to try to go for the most amount of money.
Okay, then based on the information I shared with you, where would that be? That's my third attempt. What I did is I just gave her more information. I basically shuffled the cards. I dealt her the same cards. I'm asking the same question. Where do you want to begin?
Well, I want to begin above, and since you said the highest price one was at 525, I mean, do you think I'll be able to get that for the house, 525?
All right, now someone's going to make me proud. I'm going to give you 2 tickets to Greece, right? I love the movie. What's the response from that? Do you think I can get 525? Somebody make me a proud papa.
I think I would just shift it to the market. Like, we could list it and then find out if the market decides that.
I think I would use the 3 outcomes, Denny.
Well,
There
all
you go.
right.
There
Yes.
you go.
Well, I can tell you this. One of 3 things will happen. Good job, Jeff. I'm sure you weren't looking behind me.
Not at all. Not at all.
All right. So when they say, will it sell at that number? Repeat after me. One of 3 things will happen.
Yep.
That's why we push the sheet all the time. You're going to tell them what's going to happen next. Any listing you take, any listing you have. I gave a presentation to an office in New Jersey this week. And the one guy, he was in part of the leadership group there, and said, you know what? I needed to hear that. I've got listings that are sitting and I don't know what to do. If they're sitting, you know what to do because it's outcome 1 or 2. It's not outcome 3. So
Right.
if you have questions about outcome 1, about the sheet, you can put it in the chat. I'll answer it, but I think most of you guys already know. So here's the major difference. And I'll quit talking and listen to you. Here's the major difference of my presentation than what most people are doing. She wants, let's say, everything is less than 525. I have sellers that don't want 525. They think it's worth 575 or 625, right? The question is this: when they come up with a number, I knuckle bump before I have the conversation with them. You know what I'm talking about? So you're saying, Lauren, if we were to list at 600, are you ready to move forward with me today?
Yeah.
I should have said position. Knuckle bump. Now that we've agreed to work together, I've got the commitment. Now I can let go of the commitment if I want to, but I have the commitment. Do you mind if I share with you what's going to happen next? And I go into that. I have the knuckle bump moment before I get into the fist fight with them and the jello wrestling about positioning. All right, I'll shut up, Matt, and you can kind of like unpack that or whatever.
Denny, I've learned more from you than you credit yourself for. But really, it's like I've always said on the role plays. We can use a golf analogy that we had this morning. If you've got a bag, you've got 20 clubs in it, or however many clubs you decide.
14.
14. Get it right, Matthew, for crime's sake. So you got 14 clubs in it, and it's about knowing which club to use when. I use the bullet analogy. You got a belt of bullets, and you got to know which one to fire when. So that's a bullet. And then when she asked, where do you think you should position it, or where she asked, how do you think it'll respond to 625? I typically will say, well, a properly positioned property should, and this again, a belt. This is a bullet for the belt, guys. So don't tattoo it on your forehead. I always explain a properly positioned property should get at least 2 showings per week and 1 or multiple offers in the first 30 days. We'll know very quickly whether or not the market accepts where we're positioned. And so that's kind of a one of 3 things thing. So it will either have crickets or we'll have a revolving door of showings. Either is a market response, and either tells us what we need to do.
Thank you. Any other feedback? I'm going to transition to buyers in a moment.
Danny,
However,
I have a clarifying question on that. So the knuckle bump, here's what's gonna happen, or one of 3 things gonna happen next. Is that a authorization of the paperwork and then a discussion, or is it kind of a gentleman's handshake and let's have a further conversation about it? Like, what do you mean by the knuckle bump exactly?
thank
Can
you.
I
thank you.
give my answer first?
Sure.
Have them sign the papers.
Okay, that's what I thought. That's what I was.
Sign the papers, leave the price blank.
That's what I was hoping. That's what I was hoping.
And then you could go, all right, now I'm going to get on your side, like Denny says. That's how I do it. And I've done that 10 seconds into the appointment. Okay, great. You feel I'm the right agent to hire you? Great. Boop, 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 boop. Sign it. Now let's talk about, because you still got to talk about the market and what the market's saying.
Right.
You never avoid that. Get the commitment as soon as you can. Sign the paperwork. Leave the pertinent information empty. Denny?
Well, there's a lot of different clubs in the bag, and there's a lot of bags in the club. So I handle that a little bit differently. For example, I see my daughter-in-law's on here. It's kind of like when you ask her to marry you and she says yes. Okay, well, look, we're not going to plan on waiting. I want to get the gist of the piece right now before you change your mind. I don't really go that way. I've never. So the way I roll, Lauren, knuckle bump is a commitment. Now, that may not mean the same things in certain parts of the country. I'm in the South, which is a little bit more relaxed and gentlemanly, and like knuckle bump probably is a handshake, right? And by the way, based on the conversation I have with them next, I may not want to keep them as a client.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't do the paperwork. I'm going to assume, you get whatever you focus on expense. I'm going to assume they're honorable.
Mm.
So whatever works for you, some people use a long putter, some people use the short putter.
Yeah. Well, and that's the only reason why I've done it where I get the paperwork time. It's not it's not under duress. I'm not in a rush. We're just calm, cool, and collected. And then I say, okay, great. Now, I'll even say it to them. I'm your guy. If we're gonna sell today, I'm your guy. Now let's talk about the market, talk about whatever from there. And there have been times but I always see, that's the thing. Context is key. At the beginning of my appointments, I always explain 1 of 3 things is going to happen.
Yeah.
The old heller, the seller. And I said, guys, there at any point in this conversation, if I hear a want or a need that I don't feel I can meet or exceed, I'd rather turn you down now than let you down later. At any point. So anyway, I just say that because I've had the paperwork signed, and then I came across a situation where they want $10 million for a $100,000 home. And I said, hey guys, remember earlier when I said I might not be able to meet or exceed your expectations? This is one of those times. So, while you feel I'm the right agent to help you, and I feel like I could help you, I may not be able to under these circumstances, and I give them the paperwork back.
Right.
Denny, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, how does this play out if they're trying to identify what they're going to sell it for, like what they're going to list it for, with not paying the buyer's agent?
Okay. We can role play that.
Because
So-
what if they say they'll list it at a higher price and they'll pay the buyer's agent, or they'll price it lower and not pay the buyer's agent? How do you address that? Or which one would be better? I guess I don't know. I guess it depends on what else is for sale, right?
Well, first of all, a couple different things. One is, if you're generally speaking, no set fee, right? However, compensation generally, or what we call seller incentives to the buyer's agent, is what? 1, 2, 2.5, 3%.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
You can't price your home that accurately anyway. And I have never talked to a seller that said, okay, well, I don't want to pay the buyer's agent. So I'm gonna, I think
I'm going to lower the price.
Yeah, they're not gonna lower the price. So I would just say, look, the market, you're talking about 1% or 2%. The bottom line is, I would then go into, if they're asking that, I would ask them, how do they feel about, and again, it's not compensation, how do they feel about offering a seller incentive or a buyer incentive? No, it's a seller incentive, sorry. So then I'd go into the 4 outcomes there, which I think you have a copy of, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So
if they ask, because it was a fun conversation. I'm about to have the appointment, the listing appointment, and they wanted me to answer for them. Should I lower the price of the house, lower the price of the house and not pay the buyer's agent compensation, or price it at a competitive, top, I guess, trying to get top dollar and then pay or offer to pay the buyer's compensation. So I didn't answer. I said, that's something, great question. We'll address it when I get there.
Hey, Denny, can I comment on that?
yeah.
So we've had extensive conversations about that up here, and we're starting to see some listings come with no incentive. And our approach is list the house for what you feel it should be listed for, what you want to get, what makes sense with the market. Ultimately, the buyers can bring any offer they want. It doesn't, even if the seller says, I don't want to pay, if the only offer they get is asking for 2.5% buyer subsidy, you have the option to negotiate at that point. So I feel like if you can get off of them wanting to, I mean, you still have the conversation about the benefits of, obviously the more people that see your home, the more opportunity to get the best offers. Typically we've found, based on numbers, our brokerage, that you get better results. But ultimately, if they don't want to do that, I think it's one of those things where, well, if we get offers that are asking for that and you like the offer, it's something we can consider, right? And it's just kind of a question. And I think at the end of the day, people are going to take an offer if it's an offer that makes sense, whether they're paying or not paying.
Well, this is a good transition into the buyer side of it. Just for those people who have not seen the slide that I have before behind me, I have worked out when you're having a conversation with a seller and the seller wants to offer low to no incentives, right? The 4 outcomes. Number 1, and you would go over this, the buyer may instruct the buyer's agent not to show the homes that require them to pay any portion of the buyer's agent's fee. So I'm having a conversation with you, Jeff, and you're a seller. So I don't want to offer anything. Oh, okay. And by the way, when you go in, I had this conversation with my team this week, and I trust you're doing this. And generally speaking, if you look hard enough, anything that happens, there's a bright side to it. And one of the bright sides of the NAR settlement is that you go in as a listing agent, you get your fee. They're not negotiating your fee. You might even get more if you have a strong enough value proposition. So when they ask about fee, our fee is X. And if you come in agreement on your fee and said, what about a buyer's agent? What do we have to pay the buyer's agent? We'll have that conversation. If you elect to hire me, I'll have that conversation with you and we'll strategize about it. And well, I don't want to pay anything. Here are the 4 outcomes. I can't find another one. If you as a seller say you don't want to pay anything, that may cause some buyers out there are going to tell their agents they don't want to see your home. Now, is that a positive thing for you or negative? 2, the buyer may submit an offer that stipulates that you pay them. That's what you're saying, Jeff. 3, the buyer may deduct the buyer fee from their offer price, in which you are paying that there as well, Jeff, as a seller. And number 3, maybe the buyer won't even care. They'll buy your house anyway. Those are, I think, the total population of outcomes for a seller. And to go to your point, Madeline, is the best thing you can do for the seller is the lower the price, the better. Compensation is not a factor in its selling. And I'll stop and let you guys kind of chew on that. And Matt might have a thought on that.
Yep. It's always a net question. And at certain price, they don't care a buyer doesn't care who's getting paid. If you show me $1 million property and I can buy it for $150,000, show me the paperwork, and I don't care who's getting paid. And
So you're saying it's better to just ask the question of how much they want to net? Like that's what they should be focusing on?
well,
Whether price
and
point-
yours, I would have to be a fly on the wall of your specific conversation to be able to speak intelligently there. But in most cases, it is a net question. Like I had this conversation with a client yesterday, and I won't go down the rabbit hole that conversation was. But it's funny because in the end, he's like, you never want to hear "you're right, Matthew." You always want to hear "that's right."
Mhm.
Okay, that's right. And he said, "That's right." And I said, "Okay, great." And we're not going to help him. He doesn't need to sell. There's no pain there. But it started out with, well, what's most important to you? What an agent charges or the check you get at the closing table? And that's it. It was that simple. He's like, well, my net. I said, great. So then we reverse engineered into it. But yeah, I don't know your specific situation. So it might be more complex and be more intricate.
But Matt, that question that you just asked, which I think is brilliant, but how do you address it when they say, well, I will be netting more if I don't have to pay you guys, the agents, so much?
What do you get if it doesn't sell?
Nothing.
Okay. So let's say that you're a buyer's agent and you only sell 3 homes a year, and you're a little short on your car payment and you really need to make a sale. And you're going to show 3 properties this weekend. One's not offering anything. One's offering 3% and one's offering 1%. Which one are you most excited about?
The one that's offering the most and guarantees my paycheck.
Which one would you steer away from like the plague?
Well, that's up to my buyer, right? But yes, I get what you're saying.
Well,
So
and
what if they say then, okay, well, in that case, I'm going to overprice it a little so that I can pay the buyer's agent?
the market will respond. One of 3 things will happen.
Why don't you overprice it because you're moving to Hawaii?
But
Good
yeah,
stuff.
it's really simple. It's just like the bullets on the belt analogy. Just got to know what bullet to fire when, and that's.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say without being in the conversation. But in your role play that I just did with you, Madeline, it's really simple. It's like, hey, great, yeah, but again, when you say, well, I'll just overprice it and include a fee or to encompass a fee, what if the market says no, Madeline?
So we're in Florida. Matt and I are both in Florida. He's just north of me in Sarasota.
Thank you, guys.
Time, Matt, if you want to put your contact information, if someone's looking for a referral agent in Sarasota, that would be, payment for your willingness to contribute to this. However, if you're in a different state, you may not want to say bullets on the belt. I just came up with one I've never used before, but I think it's cute. That's just one of the milk duds in the box. That'll work in any state. So let's transition into buyers, okay? Now, I'm going to go into the buyers. If one of 3 things can happen for a seller, let's talk about you counseling a buyer on you showing them a home, and what is the number one thing they ask you right away? What do you think it's worth? What do you think I should offer? So we're going to have some role plays around that and see how that ties in with some of our axioms or physics, okay? So who wants to role play as an agent? And I will be a buyer, and then we'll go through this.
I'll role play this because I have an interesting buyer right now, so I'll role play this.
Okay, so do it anyway. Do it the way you normally do it. Then we'll maybe we'll do it then a little bit different. We'll see. All right. So Dr. Lauren, thanks for showing me the home. And actually, you spent the weekend with us, and I think the one over there on Oak Street is the one that we'd like to try to buy. All right.
Yep. Happy to hear that, Denny. Glad you found something that you want to put an offer in on. We've gone over and is this your objection?
Not yet. No.
Okay. Okay. We've gone over similar homes that have sold, and I've during our initial consultation, I talked to you about market trends, right, and the things that we're going to be looking at. So given what's sold in the area that was similar to this property, what would you like to offer?
Well, we need some coaching. I mean, we're coming from Utah and don't really know the market there in New Jersey. So your expertise would be handy. It's listed for 740. And as you know, I put it up there behind me. I mean, I'm not a spring chicken, right? But I've never paid full price for anything. So what would you recommend we go in at?
Um,
40.
never
Hang on one
paid
second.
full. Oh yeah.
Hang on one second. Here's the parallel that I noticed I had a gap in. I haven't talked about it a lot. When a buyer asks you what they should offer, isn't that almost the same, if not identical, to a seller asking you, what should I price it at?
100%.
So how do we do it, and how do we keep our fingerprints off this? Dr. Lauren, keep going.
Well, okay, so you mentioned here it's listed at 740. You said you've never paid full price for a home in the past. So curious, what is it about paying full price that's holding you back?
Well, I'm trying to think if that would be a question that would be a good question. I'll play along with you. Well, if you have the opportunity to buy something cheaper, would you not do it?
It depends, because sometimes you get what you pay for, right? Have you ever had an experience where you paid a low number for something and didn't get quite the quality you were looking for?
Yeah, but that question doesn't work because we're talking about a specific home.
Well, do you think that if you were put this, well, let me go back. Let me go back and do this my way, right? I'm just going to rephrase this so I'm just back on track. So your question is, your objection is you're never going to pay full price for the home. Denny, I can appreciate that. And what if you go below the asking price and you miss out on this opportunity?
Well, that's why I'm asking you what I should pay, what I should offer. Now, she said the O word. Do your best to get rid of the O word. So we should make an offer. What does that suggest, you guys? Something less than asking price.
Offer suggests something less than asking price?
Yeah, offer.
Right. It's like the difference between for sale and on sale. My property's for sale. It's not on sale.
So
Gotcha. Okay.
So what do you want to do? And let's go ahead and let's own this home. Let's buy this home. Let's wrap it up. But offer suggests something less than asking price.
Okay. So if I'm not saying the word offered, I'm not saying the word price, what is the word to say? Because you have price right there, and you say don't say price when we're talking about sellers. So I'm trying to find the parallel between that when we're talking with our buyers. So if you're not going to say offer, if you're not going to say price, what would be the word that you would use?
Are you ready to move forward and own this home? To buy this home?
Okay. Are you ready to move forward to buy this home?
No, I mean, no, I need some help.
Okay. And we looked at what homes have sold that were similar. This home
Yep.
is listed at 740. We can see that when homes are listed at 740, they typically go for about 820. So given that we know what homes sell for, where would you like to put in your price?
Are you suggesting we offer over asking price?
I am showing you what the market has told us. And you can see here clearly that homes that are listed in the 740 price point, the market is telling us those homes are selling at 820. That's what the market is saying. So given what the market is saying, where do you feel you should put your price in at?
Well, I don't know this market. So are you saying that we should offer 820?
What I'm saying is that if you offer 740, it's unlikely that you're going to get this property. So what would be, where are you comfortable going in at?
Okay, I'll pause here a moment. Now, is this a real situation? Am I being like atypical?
No,
Oh,
totally typical.
It happens from time to time. I wouldn't say God, I love Dr. Lauren because she's a consummate professional. I can tell she wants to pull you through the computer. But it does happen with certain types, like engineers. engineers are highly analytical people. They will do this, what Denny's doing, and I want to beat them to death when they do it.
I have an architect I'm working with right now, Matt. Same exact
Yeah,
thing.
it's like,
Same.
for Christ's sake, we're getting stuck on the we can't even see the forest through the trees. What the hell are you talking about, man?
Mhm.
Can I give Denny? Do you want feedback, or are we going to jump back in?
Well, hang on one second before you go back in. If you think I'm being, well, okay, so I mean, I think it's pretty normal. They're going to want your advice.
Yeah, no, that's what we're saying, Denny. It depends on the type.
Mhm.
Okay, so
You're being the analytical, super analytical, detailed, like, well, we don't know. Tell us, what do you think? So it is realistic. It doesn't happen all the time. Some people, like with what Dr. Lauren's doing, if it were me, like me being the person I am, and I'm DC, it's a really rare personality type. My C sometimes overrides my D, but then I get frustrated and I want the point. So after she asked me about 2 or 3 times, I just say, you know what, Dr. Lauren, based off of what you showed me, offer him 550, or I would have just given up.
Hey, Denny.
Yeah.
Denny, can I add here? You know, the conversation I always have with the buyers at this point, and there are different scenarios. Ultimately, the buyer, like you said, picks your price. I think it really depends on if it's a competitive situation. We still have those. I mean, sometimes it's only 2 or 3 offers. Sometimes it's first weekend on market. But I think, you know, how long's the house been on the market?
Hold it right there. That's the point. The most tenuous time, if it's a brand new listing, you guys, if it's a brand new listing, if top market value is not known until you list it, I mean, you have some sort of idea. Dr. Lauren, you had an idea of the range. That's the most tenuous time for a buyer. Because you don't know if an outlier event's going to take place or whatever. Now, it's been on the market 60 days. What have you learned? Probably it's not priced. It's not $100 bill for less than $100. So I didn't interrupt you, Jeff, but that's the point I wanted to make sure. Time on the market, and that's not just time on the market. It's time on the market since the last price change.
Right. Yep.
So Jeff, did you have something else to say to me to cut you off?
Yeah, no, well, that's what we discussed, time on market. And then the very first conversation I have with the buyer, you know, I do the, you know, on a scale of 1 to 5, you know, in my presentation, 5 means I love the house. Let's put an offer in right now. 4 is, you know, I'd definitely consider an offer. So I do that kind of scenario. After showing houses, usually by the 2nd or 3rd time out, you know, they've found their 4 to 5 and they're ready to put an offer. So I leave them. And the first thing I do is call the listing agent to find out, you know, what kind of interest do you have in the property? You know, have you had a lot of showings? You know, I also go in and look in showing time and see if it was like fully booked. Do they have an open house? You know, and just try to really get a sense of that first weekend on market. You know, what is the action? What's the listing agent giving me? And then I've already had that conversation with my buyer during our buyer consultation that, you know, based on how long a house has been on the market. And that's helped me a lot with like VA buyers, for example, where they don't have a lot of money down. They can't compete as well. But again, we're talking about a competitive market versus a slower market. And now we're seeing a kind of a mixed bag up here in Northern Virginia. We have some houses sitting 30 days and other ones still selling the first week or 2 on market.
That's not a market issue. That's a pricing issue. So, all right, so let's put a ball on this really fast because I want to get to a point. All right, Doc, going back to you, Dr. Lauren. Okay, so you're saying, okay, well, all right, so let's make an offer at 820.
All right, great, Denny. Happy to put that together for you. We'll put in the offer at 820. Now, before I go ahead and do that, let me ask you, if the house sells for 825, would you be disappointed in that?
Well, here is the challenge of Matt may say, well, you're being an engineer. Well, you just said 820. Now you're saying 825.
No. What I'm saying is we've seen the highest price point at 820, and I'm just trying to ask, right? Because at the end of this, I want to make sure I have you in the best interest, right? Just want to make sure 820 is your absolute best, and that you're not going to be kicking yourself if the house sells for 825.
Go back. You said the magic words. Go back.
Oh no, I don't remember what I said.
I do. I'll reverse it. This is the point I'm going to get across, then I'll let Matt pop in and we can chat about it. All right, let's just reverse roles. generally, the homes that basically, you know, that have already been sold. You'll see this one was here, it sold above asking price. This one sold above asking price, blah, blah, blah. And you notice we've looked at everything in this weekend. There's only 3 houses that meet your criteria. So you want my advice, Lauren?
Yeah.
Okay. My advice is you come up with your first offer is your best offer, because we won't get a second chance. Now watch how I play this out.
See, now you're saying the word offer, so you're confusing me.
Don't worry about that right now.
Okay. All right, fine. First offer is your best offer, okay? Yep.
You started it, by the way, so.
You ready for a question that you go ahead.
Are you gonna be the agent or are you gonna be the buyer? I'm not done yet.
I'm giving Dr. Lauren some ammunition.
Okay, you can coach her.
Okay.
Here's the question, and everybody write this down. What's the most, Denny, ask yourself this question. What's the most that you'd be willing to pay for this property? And if you woke up tomorrow and found out that it was sold, you wouldn't be disappointed.
Right. That's the question. That's very well worded. So I'm asking you, Lauren, what that number is.
What's the most you would pay? You're asking me what that number is?
Yeah, because you're another buyer. I'm the agent.
Oh, I'm the buyer. Okay. So you're saying it's listed at 740, 820. I mean, I guess the most we would be comfortable with at the very most would be 830. I think that would be our absolute highest.
Now, Dr. Lauren has graduated from the College of Mastery Real Estate Conversations. So this is where she was going. And so the only difference is before I say, okay, well, we'll write it up. I'm going to say, okay, so let me ask you a question. Let's say that we're just going to run the clock forward. You're going to future pace them. It's now tomorrow. We find out that the 830 that the seller said, no, they accepted another offer. We don't know what it is. However, we learned in 60 days, it sold for 835. How would you feel?
I mean, I would be kind of bummed, I think.
Why?
I mean, it's $5,000. We were that close.
Well, so if you could go back and change it, knowing it was going to sell for 835, what would you do?
I mean, I would put it in for 835.5.
So you see where I'm going, guys. I am testing them. I'm pushing future pacing them because I'd pay 836. Then the 830 wasn't your best, was it?
Right.
You know how many times I've gone back and forth with a client on that?
No.
So we've gone from 830 to 835. Okay, 836, 837, 838, and we've gone up $15,000 before. So, and then they said, okay, you know what? If they got it for 875, and I woke up tomorrow, I asked them the same question. So you woke up tomorrow and it sold for 837. Nope, I pay 838. Okay. You woke up the next day, it was sold for 839. Okay, I pay 840. So just take them through it, and you never put your fingerprints on it, and they can't ever come back and say the famous last words of real estate, which are, but Matthew, you said.
Mm-hmm.
That's the point there, you guys. And here's the thing that I want you to get rid of, get out of your mind. See, sometimes we feel like our worth to them is saving them money, but that's not as important to them as buying the house. Y'all got that?
Right. Saving, we're not saving the money, we're saving them from themselves.
There's one more thing that I want to talk about on that, and then I'd like to talk a little bit about the strategy you can use, the little tips and tricks as the buyer's agent talking to the listing agent. So, okay, so now I do one more thing, and let's say they get to a point, and I think you were up to about 840, right, Matt? So I'm just going to go to you. You're the buyer, 840. So, all right, great. We're going in at 840. All right, I'm going to future face you. Congratulations. We find out tomorrow the sellers accepted your offer. Yay. Now you're happy. You've got the house. You move in. About 30 days after you move in, you're up at Piggly Wiggly and you happen to be in line to the cash register and you see the seller of the house 2 people ahead of you. Now they don't see you, you see them. And just before you say hello to them, you hear the seller tell the cashier, my gosh, this market is amazing. I listed my house for $740. I'd have been happy at $800. And some knucklehead came around and gave me $840. I love this country. What's going through your head, Matt?
I'd slash their tires.
Okay. Now, before we go on to the conversation, why am I doing this?
Because you want to make sure that they aren't going to have buyer's remorse.
I'm going to make sure they don't buy a voodoo doll if that really happens with my picture on it and start sticking needles in it.
Right, right, because it goes back to what I just said. It's the but Matthew, you said.
Yes.
Right? Because I've said it this way before. And I haven't, it's not telling and selling, but just, hey, I don't want to get the work. Guys, you know what the worst phone call, and this is like, I'll say this to my client. Guys, you want to know the worst phone call that I can get from a buyer client that bought a home? They call me in a year and they tell me they're not happy. So knowing that we're writing the offer this way, terms and conditions this way, what's the likelihood that might happen? And so something similar, but yeah, so you're testing to see whether they'd be upset or not.
So you guys pipe in. You get there's I've got 20 some people, a normal 20, 30 people on the call. What do you think of that? Do you see the value in bulletproofing yourself? And I'm back to bullets, Matt. You see the value in bulletproofing yourself.
Yeah, but how can you use a golf analogy with that?
I don't know. I was talking about milk duds.
Maybe you're getting your handicap in. Maybe that's protecting you. I don't know.
You're proving you're not handicapped? Oh, I gotta stop. I'm not politically correct. All right. Can I throw one piece in there that could have changed the dynamics of Dr. Lauren's role play from the beginning?
Yep.
Okay, and guys, this is I've always said in the past, you guys don't really know me that well. Denny knows me okay. I always say coaching, and I don't say this from an arrogant perspective, coaching, mentoring, and paying it forward and teaching people is I would do it for free. It's my passion. It's what God put me on earth for. I'm playing my music when I do it. So when I give you this bit of information, just know that it's not coming from a place of this is better than anybody else. But the situation where Dr. Lauren is kind of going around with Denny, it's really simple, and it addresses kind of what Jeff talked about as well, but it puts it very simplistically and eloquently. And it's this. Well, Denny, there's 2 types of negotiating. The first type, if you have 15 homes that you'd be happy with, you lowball all of them and see if something sticks, because there's 14 more. Second type of negotiating, if there's only 1 or 2 homes that you'd be happy with and you lowball, you risk upsetting the seller, at which point they might not ever want to hear from you again. So if you woke up tomorrow and found out that this home was sold, would you be disappointed? Okay, and that's how I handle that situation with my clients when they ask me, well, what should we offer? Well, there's 2 types of negotiating. This type and that type. If you woke up tomorrow and found out this home was sold, would you be disappointed? Yeah, I really would. So what do you think we should offer?
Now, most people on this call, Matt, say that's awesome, and it's common sense, right, to know the number of homes for sale. However, that's going back to understanding the trends in the market.
Right, exactly.
Gary Keller says we should be our local economist of choice, and if you're selling 3 houses a year, you don't have a flippant idea, but you guys are pros. I mean, you're here on Mastery. So when you know the market conditions, you can know, well, we're not in that market, or we are in Florida. We are in that market right now.
Right. But I also use that even when there's not enough inventory, I just say, well, there's 2 types of negotiating. Hey, if this is the only home that you love and you lowball, you risk upsetting the seller. But if there's 20 homes you love, you lowball all of them. See if something sticks. Why not?
One thing I want to just add to this, and I've never done this on Mastery, is being strategic about you as the buyer's agent and it's someone else's listing. So I'm just going to tell you what I do. You guys can pipe in, anxious to hear how you do it. I think the rookie the inexperienced agent would probably call and say, hey, Jeff, hey, my buyers love the home. We're going to write up an offer. I'll ship it over to you here in a little bit. I would never do that. I'm going to make this call. Hey, Jeff, thanks so much for the showing. I just want to call and give you a little feedback. You guys are in the top 3. I'm going to go and meet with the buyers and discuss what they want to do. I just want to verify a couple things. I know he showed it, at 3 o'clock. It's now 4 o'clock. Is it still available? Jeff? Earth to Jeff.
Yes, yes, it is still available, Denny.
Yeah, and if he's inexperienced, I say, well, do you have anything coming in on it?
I have 2 people that said they are going to offer, nothing in hand yet.
Yeah, well, it would not be a wise thing to say, no, we have nothing coming in. So we answered it pretty cool. All right. So we're going to go and meet with a buyer. A couple different, a question I have for you. Number one, my buyers are kind of flexible on when they take possession. If your home happens to float to the top, what would be a perfect closing date for your sellers?
I appreciate you asking that. Actually, my sellers, they're moving out on the 25th. So in an ideal world, they'd like to close, by that date. The 24th would be perfect.
If you want to hit the ball into the court, you see how that can be helpful up front when you structure your offer. My last question is this. My buyers are also on a pretty tight time frame. So when we do decide to make an offer, we're going to probably want to get a rather quick answer. I'm curious, are your sellers reachable so that can be facilitated?
That's a great question. Yeah, they'll actually be available this evening for an update call from me.
Now, can anyone tell me that the reason I ask those questions, it puts me in a competitive advantage in being able to structure an offer that might be closer to their court, might be able to make my buyer save a few shekels if I meet their timeline. And I am going to ask for an answer soon because I prepped them for it. Any comments?
Wait, Denny, can you say that one more time? I was like writing something down and I couldn't catch everything that you said. What was that question? I know you're probably
writing all Matt's notes. Okay, now you're asking me now. The question.
I know. Sorry.
The question.
I'll go back and listen to it.
My buyers are on a tight time frame, so if we move forward on your home, we're going to want an answer pretty fast. Are your sellers in town or are they reachable so we can get a quick response?
Yep, and I asked the same question, just a little different way. I say, well, assuming they want to make an offer and terms and conditions make sense, would there be anything preventing us from getting this under contract today?
Nice. Now, notice you will use offer on this call.
Yes.
Yep, you use the word offer. Hey, assuming my clients want to make an offer on the property and the terms and conditions make sense, can you see any reason why we wouldn't be able to get this done today?
Denny?
Yes, sir, Doug.
I've had a good conversation with the listing agent and my client's wanting to move forward. And I feel like we're kind of on the same page. I ask, what's it going to take? What do you feel like will close this deal? If we've already talked about closing date, we've already talked about occupancy, motivation, all of that. I've had a little better than 50% and getting a pretty good answer and then getting the deal for right about that.
Well,
you don't want to work with me. You don't want to work with me then.
No, hang on, Matt. I'll tell you.
Go ahead.
Now, I'll tell you what, it's the 80-20 rule. You probably should get 80% of the people answering that question. And you guys ask, you can be Columbo all you want, because most likely you're going to get an inexperienced or hungry agent that, they need that for a car payment. And they're willing to basically, they told me the other day they'd knock $100,000 off if they could close in January. The only difference of what you just said, Doug, is a minor difference. I would always dangle the carrot. My buyers are considering this house. This is one of their favorites. Always hold back. Matt.
Yeah, so when agents approach me like that, I got them. And I don't say that arrogantly. I just think, it's like they're asking me what's it going to take, and I just kind of laugh at them. And it depends on the situation, but I'll ask them, one, okay, would your clients like to make an offer? And because we're discussing that, we're having that type of conversation. Or two, well, I can tell you what they will accept, full price.
Well, that's a might nowadays, and depending on the market, that could be a might.
Yeah,
Right.
Jersey, that's definitely a might.
Yeah, it is, but I never show that. Like, I get the call from the agent and they're like, well, are they motivated? Well, I hope they are. It's on the market. Would you like to make an offer? That's always my answer.
Of course, there's no one size fits all.
Right,
Well,
right.
But often they will tell you, and actually the people that I had tell me what it will take are the experienced agents, and maybe I've dealt with them before, so we've got a dialogue ready. But I'm from Detroit. I'm kind of to the point, and I like to get to it. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So
Hang on, my last point here, a good conversation on what my one more point. I asked 2 more points. Number 1, even Jeff, I don't know if Jeff's still on. You'll call the agent. If you call the agent, do not take what you hear at face value.
No.
I'm not saying they're not
the owner.
My other point is this. I knew I should have made it before I made that point. I'll think of it as soon as I hit end meeting. So tell me what you guys heard today. In the meantime, I'll roll around my brain. Give me your ahas on this, because we haven't done really a major buyer conversation in a while.
I mean, I will say a good aha from today, because some of this stuff we kind of touched upon before, just because I've been on the morning call quite a bit, and obviously your mastery. But I think one of the things that was great was the point that Matt said about, one of the worst calls I can get from a buyer, when they call me back in a year and they're unhappy, given the price, the terms, and the way they're writing up this contract, or the way we're writing up this offer, whatever you want to call it. How likely is that to happen? So I think that was a nice question to ask and frame for the buyers, so that you're protecting yourself and making sure that you're putting the offer together the way that they want you to, and there's hopefully there's not going to be any buyer's remorse later on down the line.
Awesome, Dr. Lauren.
I like what Matt said. What's the most you'd be willing to pay? And if you woke up tomorrow and it was sold for, that you wouldn't be disappointed. Did I take that note right, Matt?
Yeah. Denny said something really. I just don't know the exact words, because that's a Dennyism. But yeah.
Here's a good one. I wouldn't have been more surprised if I woke up and found my head sewed to the carpet. Christmas Vacation, our favorite movie, which is coming up.
Yeah, I love that. Just when I love that movie. Shitter's full.
All right, you guys. All right, you guys. I wish I could remember what I wanted to say, but thanks for being on. And we'll talk to you guys maybe on Recon on Monday, if not Mastery next Friday. Love you, meet and knuckle up. Be careful out there.
Thank you, Denny. See ya.
I guess.
Hello.